Hi, welcome to Creative Conversations. I'm your host, Matthew Arkin, and my guest tonight is the amazing Angel Desai, who is a wonderful New York actor who I want to introduce you to tonight. Her most recent work included roles pre-pandemic in NCIS NOLA, recurring roles in NCIS NOLA, For Life and Jessica Jones, and guest spots on FBI, Most Wanted, City on a Hill, and Bull. But during the pandemic, she's been unbelievably lucky. She's been busy and shooting a short film, which she's going to talk to you about, for the Prospect Theater Company to be released soon. She has recorded the voice of Queen Lili'uokalani for PBS Unladylike series. She's filmed monologues for Barrington Stage and the Old Globe Theater, read Gertrude in Hamlet for PlayOn Shakespeare. She's done a new Craig Lucas play for Arena and Huntington Stages, and she has sung in the American Opera Project's workshop of the song cycle, Letters You Will Not Get. I am exhausted just thinking about how much she's been doing. So please welcome my guest, Angel Desai. Hi. I need to take a nap, finding out everything that you've been doing during the pandemic. It's unbelievable.
Thank you for making it sound so awesome. I feel I feel very lucky, but I also do get in a nap here and there. Actually, you know what? I don't really like naps that much, to tell you the truth. I take like 20-minute. I do the 20-minute power nap thing. I don't really fall asleep. I lay down for 20 minutes and then that's it.
Wow, you're good. I nap.
Well, because I hate that groggy feeling when you get up. If you nap for me, if I nap for more than that, I feel groggy, like that jet laggy feeling, the jet laggy.
Oh, yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I live in that groggy space. So that's home for me.
It's home. It's home. It's pandemic home for so many of us. Yes. Yep. Good point.
Right.
Good point.
So I do have to say I'm very angry at you.
Oh dear.
Because I've been doing my research on you, and now that song is stuck in my head, and you know what I'm talking about.
I do know which one you're talking about.
It's my favorite song in the show.
Oh, thank you. And I can't take credit. I didn't write it.
You perform it beautifully. And
thank you.
Of course, I'm talking about Another 100 People from Company, which you did on Broadway.
Yes, I did. Thank you. That was, thanks, Matthew. That's kind. That was John Doyle's production in 2000. We opened in 2006. And closed 8 months later. We closed right after we won the Tonys, the Tony for Best Revival of a Musical. The morning after the Tony Awards, the producer calls and is like, "Congratulations on the Tony! You're closing in 2 weeks." And we were like,
"Nice,
nice." But because it was filmed for great performances,
right?
That's actually how a lot of people have had a chance to see it since then, which is actually how a lot of people tell me that they've seen it till now. I actually used to get recommended it on Netflix. When they have recommendations for you, like it used to be on Netflix.
Right.
And they're like,
right.
You might like Company. And I was like,
you watch on television.
And I was like, I've seen it. I saw it every night for 8 months. But I got to shout out Pamela Myers, for whom Stephen Sondheim wrote the song originally. I still think hers is the best. So if you haven't heard the song, go listen to Pam Myers' version from 1971.
Now, was that your Broadway debut?
It was, yeah. And how awesome is that? I've always thought Sondheim was a genius. He's always been one of my favorite Broadway, composers. And that song, I've always loved that song. And then my debut is singing that song. But then also, because it was John Doyle's version, it was also us playing all of the instruments. We were the orchestra as well as the actors. So not intimidating at all.
That's why I wasn't in it, because they didn't need a kazoo.
Oh, yeah. think we could have convinced Mary Mitchell Campbell to orchestrate that in for you. Do you sing?
I do
Do you
sing.
sing that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you done musicals too?
I've done one musical. I've done a lot of workshops. I
Me
did one
too.
musical, not on Broadway. I did Guys and Dolls 23 years ago at the Fifth Avenue in Seattle, which is
Oh,
the
wow.
amazing space.
Yeah, I know of that space.
Yeah.
Who were you in Guys and Dolls?
I was Nathan.
Oh.
Nathan to Gregory Harrison's Detroit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
fantastic.
had a
I
ball.
bet you were terrific. Yeah, I bet you were terrific.
I was amazing. So tell me a little bit about your, or tell us a little bit about your origin story. How did you find your way into this business? Is it something you wanted to do since you were this big? Did you have family in it before you? How did you wend your way?
Right. I did not have any family in it before. And forgive me, I've got something in my eye, of course. The timing is perfect. I was late to start because I thought I got rid of it, and I didn't. Anyway, I do not have any family in the business. My parents emigrated over from India and the Philippines, respectively, and but I knew from when I was, from 3 or 4 that I loved it. I just was in love with performing and singing and movies and TV and listening. My mom would play all of these the great old musicals like, The Sound of Music and Camelot and The King and I and West Side Story and Fiddler on the Roof, all the old classic musicals from then. We listened to them. We listened to opera. My sister and I started studying music from when I was 4. And when she turned 4, she started music school too. So it was a household in which the arts were very encouraged, not so much theater, but music. And we studied music, since then. But my parents are both doctors, and that's what they wanted me to do. That is not what I wanted to do.
How's that working out?
I'm not a doctor, but I play one a lot on TV because they love to put Asian people in doctor roles. And I love to say to people, hey, guess what? We do a lot of things, actually. We can talk about that later.
Yeah,
but anyway,
we're gonna get to that.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, thank you. But yeah, so I broke my parents' hearts, I think. Probably my dad, God bless my dad, he'll never say it probably. Well, he says it in not so many words. He says it by every so often. To this day, mind you, I've been doing this for 25 years now professionally, but to this day we'll still say, that it's not too late for me to go to medical school, and he'll fully support me if I choose to go at my age. And I'm like,
That's funny because I quit practicing law 30 years ago now. And
you were a lawyer?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Practiced law for 5 years. And people
God.
still say to me, one of my oldest friends said to me today, she said, do you ever miss it? And I said to her, are you ever going to stop asking me that? Because the answer is not going to change.
You'll know if it changes because I'll be doing it.
I'll go back to doing it.
Yeah.
Because I still have a license.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's impressive. I never got that far. I got as far as a double major in psychology and biopsychology in college. But
okay.
But I just, and I loved it. To tell you the truth, I loved it actually. But the whole time I was like, how am I going to break into acting? How do I do this? What do I do? And the answer kind of appeared before me at the beginning of senior year of college, where the head of the theater program, and obviously I wasn't a theater major, but I kept, hoping that they'd let me in outside the door. And the head of the department knew me because I had auditioned for some of his productions. He was offering to help seniors who wanted to apply for grad school. He offered to help us with our monologues, and I signed up. And there were 3 or 4 of us. And he helped me, Greg Copeland out at Oberlin College. He helped me. No, not Greg Copeland. I'm so sorry. That name just came to me. Greg was one of my friends. Sorry, Greg, if you're watching. Hi, Greg. No, Paul Moser. Paul, if you ever see this, sorry. I don't know. Greg was one of the people you were helping for a while. Paul helped me helped us do our monologues. I got into NYU graduate school, and then I had to break the news to my parents.
Wow. How did that go?
Not well. Yeah, it wasn't. that was not pretty. My mother didn't even tell me that I'd been accepted for 2 or 3 days. Apparently, they had called my parents' house. Ron Van Loo, one of the foremost acting teachers in the country, had to call my parents' house, and she didn't tell me for 2 or 3 days. And then she was like, "I got this call from this Ron something," and I was like, "What?"
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that was, yeah. They accepted a lot more now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to argue with success.
Thank you for saying that. I think it's funny what people think of as success, right? Because when company came along, I had been acting professionally for 10 years. And for the last few before that, I had been supporting myself purely being an actor. When I first got out of grad school, I was doing all I was nannying. I nannied for a while. I was a temp. The things that you do to work, especially if you're doing off-Broadway theater in New York, you have to support yourself with other jobs. But then a few years before company, I booked a pilot. I booked a series regular and a pilot, and I had a commercial running, and I was doing theater that was paying me finally. And then company happened, and some relatives of my dad friends said to him, "Hey, so we see Angels on Broadway now." And my dad, apparently, I wasn't there, but apparently he said, "Yes, she finally has a real job." That was 10 years in.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's what it's like over on our side of things. But I give them full credit. Within a few years, they turned it around. They come to see everything. They fly across the country to see me. They're so supportive and proud. And yeah, it was a journey. It was a journey.
All right. So here's something I like to ask everybody. You knew you wanted to do this since you were a little kid, as did I, in spite of my detour. And a lot of people, some people fall into it later. They're truck drivers, and then somebody says, "Hey, you should try acting." But then there's this other group of us who knew from the time we were 5 that this is what we wanted to do. And when you're 5 and you want to do this, there are very particular reasons why you want to do
it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. But I've noticed for me, and I think for a lot of people, those are reasons why I want to do it now are completely different than they were when I was 5. Mm-hmm. And I like to get people to talk about what it means to them now, what we do.
Oh, that's a great question. I think that's great, Matthew. And by the way, I bet you've talked about this on this show before, but I would also love to hear about you. And because you're saying you knew early too, when you were little.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you wanted to.
I'll tell that story. I think I've told that story before, but
oh, good.
I'm sure people never get sick of hearing it.
No, darling. That's why they keep tuning in week after week.
All 7 of them.
Yeah. Hello, all 7
speaking of people tuning in.
Friends.
Speaking of people tuning in, your friend Nick Adams.
That's my boyfriend.
Says hello.
And yes, he says hello. Hi, darling.
And another person says hello to you. Susan Birkenhead sends her
hello,
regards.
Susan.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hi.
She's not watching now, but she told me to send her regards to you.
Oh my goodness. Well, please send my regards back. Wow.
I will.
How do you know Susan?
Susan is my first cousin once removed.
That is wild. You're kidding.
Nope.
Oh my gosh. On your mom's side, your dad's side?
My dad's side. She and my dad are first cousins.
That is wild. That is so wild. She wrote the lyrics to a musical that I workshopped. Like you, I've workshopped many, many, many musicals, and this was another one. Well, please give her my best. I hope she's doing okay.
Yeah, she's great.
Good. Your question was about the reasons.
What it means to you now to do this.
Yes, right.
Because we don't do it for the same reasons now that we did it when we were 5.
I would say that I would add reasons. I wouldn't necessarily take away some of them, but yeah, that's a great question, because I just loved it. I think if you're bitten that young by whatever this is, this fever that takes hold, I think that there's just something in you that is meant to do it. At whatever level you can do it, at whatever level you're blessed enough to be able to do it. But then it occurred to me, because growing up, there weren't a lot of other Asian kids around. There weren't a lot of kids of color around, period, just a handful. I grew up in upstate New York, Binghamton, New York, and so not a lot, not huge communities of people of color. So I wasn't aware, and we didn't have lots of family friends that were of color either, so I wasn't aware of race being some kind of thing that was in the way, and I wasn't aware that I would become as civic-minded and as as passionate about being civic-minded as I would become. I love to tell stories, and I've always thought that storytelling was one of the most important aspects to our humanity. And so that's why the collective us, that's why we do what we do. But then I also realized at some point, I want any little kid who's like me, who didn't see themselves growing up, it's crucial that little kids have role models. And so it occurred to me at some point, that's what I want to be. I want to show the little kids out there who may love it the way that I did, that instead of just seeing white faces and saying, well, maybe they'll let me be one of those rare few that makes it, as opposed to that, I would love for them to see themselves on screen. It matters, I know at this point it probably feels like a cliche to a lot of people, but it really truly does. It's the psychology of who we are and how we get into this. That's the root of everything that we are and why we do what we do. So of course it matters. Of course. Seeing yourself, knowing that you are validated as a person, that other people see you as a full human being. When you're little, you don't make a distinction between reality and the people that you see on screen or on stage. They're real people. You're transported into this magical place, and if you're like I was, and I assume you were as a kid, you watch these things and you're like, yeah, that's a real world. That there's no difference. So to understand that those people up there are real is vital, because if you grow up without it and then you realize, oh, I'm alone, it's a horrible feeling, and it leads to all kinds of big problems. But we don't have to get into all that right now.
We can get into some of it. We can be a serious talk show.
All right, we'll be a serious talk show. It's your talk show. You do what you want.
Yeah. They're not paying me, so I get to do what I want.
So you do whatever you want. Exactly. Yeah.
We can play tiddlywinks for an hour if we feel like it.
Whatever entertains the people. Are you not entertained?
Yes. No, I love what you're saying, because for me originally, of course, it was wow, look, my dad gets to jump off a bridge, into mattresses for a living 8 times a week.
Right.
And people stand up and go like this and laugh at him. Yeah. Wow, that looks like fun. And then growing up on movie sets, that is fun. And I wanted to have that kind of fun. Also, I realized, recently I realized that one of the things that I love so much about being on a movie set is there was so much craziness and divorce and all of that when I was growing up, and moving around from here to there and this family and that family and boarding school, that a movie set it's the closest thing I have to the old neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like I get on a film or a television set and I say, oh, I know this town.
Right.
And I know these people.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. Of course. It's home.
Then it did change for me as I got older and as I had kids, and like you're saying, the stories that we tell started to become more important to me. And the idea of, and I had enough things happen to me where somebody would come speak to me a day or a month or a year later and let me know that for the first time in their life, they had felt seen. And like you're saying, that's like you were saying, that's the most important thing we can do for people, is let them know that they are seen.
Yeah. Because it then translates into, especially if you are an underrepresented group or come from an underrepresented group, to know that society as a whole is amalgamated, is integrated, to know that, or at least hope for that, or strive for that, or reach for that, to know that that's possible, as opposed to feeling like you've got to fight or shoehorn your way in or sneak your way in, or that's and to, like you say, that sometimes actors can feel like cogs in a wheel. Like in theater, you're a cog in a wheel, and in a TV and film, you're really a tiny cog in a very big wheel, but you're still a storyteller responsible for your part in the story.
Yeah.
So I feel you. I got to imagine, I want to hear more about you wanting to go to law school, but there must be a part of you that was also, do you feel like that's part of your civic mindedness too? Like was that related somehow, or what?
That's a story I'll tell you. That's a story I'll tell you sometime after a lot of bourbon.
Oh, okay. That was fuck you. I don't want to be a movie star anymore,
when you're ready to peel me up off the floor. No, but it's funny, because this is always an interesting conversation for me. And as I'm sure this might come as a huge surprise to you, but I have not had a lot of opportunity to play underrepresented people.
You're kidding.
Being a middle-aged white guy.
You're right.
Not a lot of call, except occasionally I or frequently I play the Jewish guy in the crowd, but that doesn't quite count as underrepresented, particularly in our industry and in our society right now. But one time I did a play several years ago called The Whale, and I don't know if you know it. They had a New York production, and it's about a 600-pound man dying of congestive heart failure. And was Samuel D. Hunter.
Oh, man.
Fantastic. Okay. He went on to win a McCarter Fellowship, the Genius Grant. I'm still waiting for mine.
Mm-hmm. But it's stuck in the mail. The postal service is really jammed up with the election.
It's on its
It'll
way.
Be here any day now. Any day. Yeah.
I would say that's the first time I got to play underrepresented because you know, and felt the both the weight and the honor of that responsibility. And it was amazing.
It's
but again, a different circumstance, because not being part of that underrepresented community, I had to do a lot of research and spend a lot of time with people who are part of that community and who were willing to share their stories with me.
Right. Yeah, it's I mean, in a different but related way, I am Asian American, but I'm so confusing to so many people that I often end up playing sort of something that is either an offshoot from me or just really not even me. And so I've in a weird way had to do some research for some roles as well, because like there's so far until this film that we'll talk about eventually, there was not a role written for me for this combination. So
right.
But I hear you. You're making me think of Zelda Fitzchandler was the head of the program, NYU grad acting, when I was there. And she would talk about the actor as a citizen. Actor citizen was this term that she would use, because she wanted us always to remember that we were citizens of the world. We weren't just actors, but that our function in society, because we're citizens of the society, but that our function was to really be this very active. They talk about theater being a mirror for the soul or for the psyche or for society, but to really be active about that mirror. And that there is also this part of how we do that is that we're built to, we're empaths. You know, empathy is it's our gift, but it's also our tool. It's also what we can wield. It's also what is our strength and what society needs more of. And so even if you had to do research and, you know, get stories from people and only had a temporary while to inhabit the shoes of this other person, it's crucial. It's crucial that you did that. And I'm glad. It's a wonderful feeling, isn't it, when people come up to you and they're like, and they just say, thank you for telling that story.
Yeah.
It's so great to see this story, me or my people or the people that I'm like, for making me feel seen. Yeah.
So tell us about Lady Apsara.
Hey, pretty good. That's pretty good. Apsara. Yeah, pretty good, Matthew.
Well,
nice.
I tried.
I know, you try very well. Thanks. So, Prospect Theater Company is a theater company here in New York. Theater company, and the artistic director, Kara Reichel, she has a relationship with this theater up in Binghamton, New York, which is my hometown. Naima, and I'm forgetting your name, Naima. So your last name. So I can't. So this is terrible. I should have had it up. But anyway, she wanted to make these films. It's called the Vision series. They were supposed to be 10-minute films. Ours is more like, at the moment, it's 17 minutes. It's still being edited, so we'll see. I don't think it's going to get down to 10, though. 10-minute musicals. She was like, there's this old theater, the Goodwill Theater up in Binghamton, and she was like, let's film some musicals in the space. I think it's the 100-year anniversary of the theater. It's this the theater building is still up, but it's been stripped inside of all the seats. It hasn't been used since, I think 80 years, either 50 to 80 years. I can't remember which, the last time the space was used. So it was such a fast process. It was a month between the idea and filming.
Wow.
And to get writer, composer, director, editor, cast members, and by the time everybody finished everything, and because of the COVID rules and because of the budget, we had exactly 2.5 days to rehearse and shoot the entire thing.
Wow.
And some people may think, well, that's plenty of time. But when you're doing a musical, it's not. I'll say right now that if you're in every frame of a film, which I'm lucky enough to be in this, and you are singing every number and even playing on a couple of them, that's not enough time. I'm never going to do that again. At least nothing with a script that long, because, oh my God, it was insane.
Wow. And when will we get to see this, and where?
So the Prospect Theater Companies, they have a YouTube channel. I wonder, can I put that in a...
If you send me the link, it will go into the comments of this program when it's done. And it will be there. It will live there forever.
Fantastic. I'm going to search it. Clearly, as your viewers can see, I'm very well prepared.
Or you can email it to me afterwards, and I'll put it into the comments.
Okay.
Because there will be, there are comments underneath the video, and it will live there forever.
Well, okay, fantastic. It is the Prospect Theater Company, theater spelled Theater. And if you look up Prospect Theater Company on YouTube, they have a channel. They have other films as part of the Vision series. Ours was the fourth in the series to film in the space, and yeah, I think we drop on the 18th. That is the tentative viewing date. But stay tuned and subscribe to Prospect Theater Company's YouTube channel. I'm going to put it in the chat right now.
Yeah.
And then you will know. Hey, this is one of my best friends from college, Letitia Haney. Who has dated, I've now dated us both. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Here's the link. I'm going to copy and paste the link in the chat. And so, yeah, so Lady Apsara is, with the writer and composer and I had these meetings talking about what it could be about. And the idea of a dual identity is something that came up, specifically dual ethnic identity. And so our writer, Naveen Bahar Chowdhury, she took that theme and she crafted a piece around that about an actor who is having two auditions and is having to, I don't want to give away too much because it'll be very clear when you watch the movie. Thank you, Matthew, for plugging it. But yeah, that's the crux of the film.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Now, talk to us about APAC.
Oh, right. So, if I'd been artful about it when you were talking about, little kids and seeing yourself as an Asian person, then I would have segued into that. But
well, that's why I'm.
So thank you. Yeah. No.
That's why they're paying you the big bucks.
They're paying you such big bucks. I know. Thank you, Matthew. They pay you well, but they should pay you better, is what I think. APAC, right? So APAC stands for the Asian American Performers Action Coalition. If people are curious, I'm going to put our website in the chat right now. We formed, was that 9 years ago now? Yeah, now it's 9 years. It's a group of actors, performers. At the time, there was also a director, Ralph Pena, the artistic director of the Mayi Theater Company. He was at that meeting. In fact, he actually was the one hosting the meeting. It started on Facebook. One of us, one day on Facebook, had come back from seeing a show, I think maybe Playwrights Horizons or one of the major off-Broadway houses in New York. And they just posted this question on Facebook: where are all the Asian actors in plays in New York? How come I'm never seeing Asian actors in in New York theater? And the comment thread from that question was over 400 comments long. It was this huge discussion that spanned days. And and there was this, and so we were just like, we got sick of it, and Ralph got a bunch of us together in a room, and we were like, what are we going to do about this? Let's figure out a way to address this as a community. So we started organizing forums, and we started we had forums with the community, first just actors, and then all artists, and then like anybody who wanted to come, but with press. But we also started taking statistics about the actual numbers of actors of different colors, races, ethnicities on and off Broadway, in the major off-Broadway houses in New York and the Broadway houses. So, and now we have a statistics report every year that.
And you also have an Obie Award.
Yes, right. Yes, we won an Obie Award this year. Thank you, for excellence in the field of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Thank you, Obies.
That's fantastic.
It was, thank you. It was a shock. We were like, first of all, we were like, do they have Obies for this kind of thing? And then we learned, like, the Obies, we didn't know that they had that, but the Obies, it turns out they can award they're formed like they award whatever they want.
Right.
If they think something should have an award, they go, yep, we're making an award for that thing right now. So we were like, hey, thanks. So yes, thank you, Obies, for that recognition, because it's a lot of talk about unpaid and thankless work. It was a lot of that, because we're all volunteers. We're all actors.
Yeah.
We're, you know, we came in it we got into this to have careers, you know, and then we realized, it's kind of hard to have a consistent career when you're Asian in this business. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's one of the reasons I've been proud to be associated with the South Coast Repertory out in Costa Mesa, California.
Yeah.
Because they've had a tremendous amount of Asian plays come out of that theater in the past 4 or 5 years. Viet Gone.
Yeah. Viet Gone.
Little Yellow Rednecks, Cambodian Rock Band,
right? Cambodian Rock Band.
Company. They all came out of South Coast Rap. And
yep. Is that Julia Cho? There's Julia Cho. I know she's had a long relationship with them too, as well.
None of those were Julia Cho. Little Yellow Rednecks and Viet Gone was
Lauren.
That's
Lauren. Viet Gone is Qui, but Cambodian Rock Band is Lauren Yi.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. No, that's a good that's a good point. I keep forgetting. Yeah. They've been pretty good
they're doing a really good job reaching out into that very specific Southern California community and commissioning work. It's been really inspiring to watch.
That's great.
So you talked in our little pre-interview, you talked about career lulls, and then so the sort of boomerang from a career lull to Phyllis, as for instance, in Dublin, things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping this is something that people can relate to, although, I mean, in so many ways, so many of us are in the same boat right now. The pandemic has been such a great equalizer.
Except I like to say people are not in the same boat. They're in the same storm. Some people are in really nice boats.
Yeah. That's very true.
And
yes, I was going to say,
hanging on to pieces of driftwood.
That's right. You are totally right, Matthew. Thank you. That is a much better analogy. I take it back. Screen wipe. Yes, we're all in the same storm, and there are some people who their careers are just fine, and they are in very nice some yachts. I think some yachts or some schooners, and yes. And then there's a lot of the actors I know in New York who, yes, are either clinging to pieces of driftwood or at least have this like broken little dinghy that they're rowing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was teaching at NYU undergrad last year, and there were so many undergrads because this hit in the middle, the lockdown in New York hit us in the middle of the semester. So the rest of our classes were online on Zoom. And there were so many people who were just so many young people about to graduate college, and they were like, what the hell am I going out into? They were feeling so hopeless and all of this. And I totally understand, because you've just spent 4 years gearing up and you're so excited and you're like, I'm going to be a star and I'm going to jump out into the world. And suddenly there's no world to jump into. And so what do? For those of us who've been around the block a little bit, we know that sometimes it's like that when there's no pandemic. It's just, You just don't work. And I had reached a certain age, shall we say, and I was losing.
I'm just remembering what you said to me when we were shooting Bull, which
Asian don't raisin.
Yeah, when I remarked it at how much younger you were than I was, and you said, not as much as you think.
Asian don't raisin. I love getting reactions. I said that on the set of NCIS New Orleans, and Scott Bakula laughed out loud. That makes me so happy that I got a laugh out of him, because I don't think he'd ever heard that before. But especially for women, especially when you're, a weird looking Asian, as the film Lady Apsara that I did, that Naveen wrote talks about. It's like, Asian Americans have it hard, whether they're East Asian or South Asian or Southeast Asian. It's hard anyway. When you're mixed, it's even harder for people to figure out what to do with you. And I thought, okay, I'm weird Asian. I'm short. I don't look good with long hair. So I've got this short hair, and I've reached a certain age. They don't need me anymore. They've stopped, because I hit this period where it was like a year. I wasn't just not working. I wasn't auditioning, and I wasn't doing readings. I wasn't doing work. Like, there was nothing. And I went into this tailspin. I was anxious all the time, and I was starting to panic a little bit, because I was like, what the hell am I going to do? Because it was med school. Right, which my father very generously reminded me of during that period. He's like, you could always do this. And I was like, thanks, Dad. That doesn't affect my depression at all. And it was really wearing on me. And now we're talking 12 months. It was 14 months, 15 months with nothing. And I thought, okay, I've got to figure out what to do with my life. But I was just in a mild panic, just low to mid to high level anxiety almost all the time. And I really, I was looking into teaching full time, and I was just like, I was really sad all the time. And then there was an audition, my first theater audition in, I don't know how long that was. And it was for the play version of Double Indemnity, which was a novel, and then was the movie that Barbara Stanwyck and Fred McMurray starred in 1944. The novel was 1938, and the movie was 44. And I was reading for the Barbara Stanwyck part, and I was like, what the hell? It was the weirdest thing. No auditions for months, no jobs for a year and a half. And the first thing I'm getting is Phyllis Nerlinger and Double Indemnity. I was like, what the hell is this? It's so weird. It was Dave Caporelli-Otis casting, and the producer and the director, John Gould Rubin, and the producer, Justin Waldman, and they're in the room, and I'm the only non-blonde at the audition. So I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing here? What the hell is going on? So I go in the room, and I'm just in this bewildered state. But I thought about all of the genre playing around we did in grad school. So I was like, well, it's been a while since I've seen some noir, but we had such fun playing with that. So I did the audition, and they're laughing. John and Justin were laughing. And I was like, oh God, is this a comedy? Maybe do I have the right, I thought this was a murder mystery. So I'm totally befuddled. And I just looked at them afterwards and I was like, is that okay? And they were like, yeah, that's great. Booked the job.
You booked the job.
I booked the job.
Did they keep the line as for instance?
As for instance.
When he says he says something about wondering what's on that anklet, and you just say you say my name, and he says as for instance.
No, I don't think that. At least I don't think so. But my memory is not great. So for lines and stuff, and that was a few years ago now. Right. So no, I don't remember.
I used that clip in one of my film classes talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used the clip the first time he comes over to the house from the movie.
Right. Oh yeah. I don't remember if that line was there, but I remember how fun it was to play those scenes. Michael Hayden it was great stuff. But the reason why it has symbolic value to me is because it not only was it my first job in a year and a half, but it was a role I never expected to play. It was a delicious role, just a psychotic murderer, She's this femme fatale. She's this classic femme fatale, and I never got to play parts like that. I was always playing the weirdos. I mean, she is a weirdo, but she's a sexy weirdo. So I was like, wow. It was just remarkable in so many ways. And after that, there was this job, and then another job, and suddenly I was like, oh, I'm working. And since then, I've been working. I'm not going to say all the time, but I will say relatively consistently for the last few years. And so that was like this turning point there. This was what that was. And I try to tell people that story because I'm like, it is going to change. There are long periods. You can go through these long periods, and yeah, it sucks. But it's also part of actor life, and things do turn around. Speaking of Ron Van Loo, my teacher from school, he'll say, Ron, if you ever see this, I hope I get this right. The key to having a career as an actor is to refuse to go away. You have to refuse to go away. And I like I like that way of putting it, because you're going to feel like they're telling you go away. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It felt like just go away. And it takes everything in you sometimes to stick with it and hang in there. I wasn't even sure.
I'm just hanging on until I can play the coroner.
You've got a special savings account set aside
just
for coroner and funeral expenses. Yeah. Oh, and don't forget the wake. We're gonna want a really big party.
Not pay the coroner. Play the coroner.
Oh, play the coroner.
I want to play the coroner.
I really thought you said pay.
No.
Sorry, Matthew.
I just want to live 100 years. I want to come in once a week and say we can tell it was strangulation because of the petechial hemorrhages.
Yes, right. Ooh.
See you next week. See you all next week. I'll be back next week.
Was that a phrase from an audition and that like stuck in your craw like that?
No, I read and write suspense and crime and so I know my autopsies.
Right. Yes.
And I play a lot of, like you, for some reason, I play a lot of doctors, but not because they don't know what to do with me, but just because I've realized there's something about this face that they look at and they say, oh, that's the guy who gives you bad news.
They're like, it's such a friendly, comforting, warm face. Let's have him be the one to tell us.
Say you're dying of cancer.
It's hepatitis.
Or we'd come out and say your father died on the table. We did everything we could. I've done that so many times.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, it's fun.
Wow.
What can I tell you?
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's so fun to only play one thing all the time and not know what to do with them.
Right. I'm happy to work. In theater, I want to do the stuff that, this means something.
Right.
Film and television, show me my trailer, give me my pages. What's my call?
Yeah, I have, there are some sets that I've been on where I've been glad for that. For the, I get to, I'll be over at Crafty and I will see you when we come to the scene.
I've seen you at Crafty.
That's where the majority of our conversations took place.
Like a Dyson.
Anybody who knows me well who's watching this thing is like, yep, that's pretty much eating all the time. Yeah.
Oh, we have a question for you.
Out of curiosity, we're the only actor of color in that. Thanks, Letizia. Yes, I was. There were only 5 of us, and I was the only actor of color, which is even more. It's both remarkable and it's. I mean, I don't know what I assume that there were other actors of color that they saw. I'm almost positive I'm not the only one who auditioned, but there were 5 of us in the show, and I was the only actor of color in that. And it's like, and it's, thank you for bringing that around, Letizia, because Matthew, as you were saying, like in theater, you want that meaty, you want that role you can just sink your teeth into. I'm really looking forward to having a TV or film role where I get to do that, because I'm sure you know this, when so much time passes between film gigs and it's a new set, new people, new everything, and you have to adapt so quickly. For me, I don't know for you, but for me, I feel like the film muscles are different from stage muscles. And sometimes, so it takes a day or two to get that back. So by the time, with a smaller part, by the time I'm like, oh, okay, this is what this feels like, I'm done. So I'd really love to have a chance to be on a set long enough to just be like, oh, right, okay, right. It's a different sport, related, but not the same.
Right.
Like I used to tell my students, because I'm not teaching now, but if film and TV are like a sprint or like a 50-yard dash, theater is the marathon. So you're running, but they're different muscles your calves and thighs have to develop. Different reflexes, different mentality.
Have you done long runs? You did the company for eight months.
Company was the longest. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm built for super long runs. I think it'll depend. I don't want to jinx myself by saying that. But it felt long, but I think that's also because John staged it and we were all on stage the whole time having to watch the show every night. And especially in musical theater, things are they have to happen so precisely.
Yeah.
If I were in a show where there was room to breathe and room to invent, to reinvent, and also had a larger part, I don't know, that might feel different. What's the longest run you've done?
20 months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What was that?
Dinner with Friends.
Oh, wow. Was it sitting down, or was it touring, or were
New York.
you
Sitting down in New York? It was New York. It was the original production in New York.
It was the original production. You were in the original production. Well, clearly I didn't see it. Oh my gosh. Wow. How was that to do?
You could have seen it. I looked quite different. I was a young man at the time.
I for all those years when I was really not working a lot, there's no money to see New York theater. They don't give discounted tickets to actors, though they should.
Yes.
But anyway,
yes, they should.
but wow, how was that for you?
It was interesting. I mean, I loved the play. I felt really lucky. I had many different wives. I had many different best friends. and just got to work with some wonderful people.
Right.
But looking back, I think I maybe stayed a little too long. I think I should have maybe leapt after a year and gone to unemployment and opened the door for something else rather than riding it till the very end. I think going back, I might have played that a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
But
did it feel like oh, sorry. I was just going to say, did it feel like the right decision at the time?
Yeah. And I also just felt, I had a new child. So, I mean, not brand new, but he was a year and a half. So, he was a year and a half when it started. So a steady paycheck was, for an actor, it's, it was hard to leave. And I kept thinking I'll leave if I have something to go to.
Right.
But it was also just a privilege to be part of that experience.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you have to just take that leap into nothingness and be willing to see. I felt the same way about company. I feel very privileged to have been a part of it. At the same time, I'm looking forward to being recognized for things that are not that, to having other chances to try that out at that level with just, new material, new stuff.
Yeah.
Because
it's funny. I feel so I mean, I of course would love to, as you say, do a film role that you get to dig into. But I feel so lucky in terms of having a relationship with South Coast Rep and working in other theatrical venues on the stuff that really means something to me. And I've gotten to this place of thinking, I would love to do a TV series, even if it's a piece of garbage, if it's going to run for 6 or 7 years,
Right. Right. So that you can pay for your theater habit. Is that part of it? Yeah.
And also, like you say, there's these ups and downs. I've done enough other things in my life, other jobs that I didn't like. So when I hear actors on a TV series that's, that they think is not very good complaining, I want to smack them in the head, because I want to say, well, drive Uber for 2 years and then complain about this TV series that you don't like doing. Where you're making $40,000 an episode. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear your complaints.
I want to hear your complaints, especially if this is the third TV series in a row that you've had where you're doing this kind of thing. Yeah. You've lost touch, and you should stop talking.
Right.
It is.
Well, and the other thing is that if you're doing that, you still have at least 2 or 3 months off a year. Spend that money on your theater company then. If that's what if you're looking for meaning in your life, there are ways to find it. Which leads me to the other question I like to ask everybody is, what do you do off stage, not connected to this, that feeds you, internally, not putting food on the table?
Well, actually,
unless it is putting food on the table that feeds you. For me, it is. I love to cook. Like, I could spend all my time in the kitchen when I'm not acting.
Oh, I love it. That's actually what I was doing up until quite recently. Was making a whole bunch of food. I love to cook. I do love to cook. The pandemic has made things interesting because there was a point, and I think even professional chefs have come to this point where they're like, even I'm tired of my own cooking. Like, I love to cook, but when you don't have a lot of other options, and I do get takeout occasionally, but I don't like all of the plastic waste and because one of my pet causes is the environment, climate change, the environment. And I try to live as greenly as possible. So it's dangerous to go to restaurants. The weather's getting colder. So, but that's one of the things I've been doing during the pandemic is cooking. And I've actually been doing a lot of Zoom hangouts of different kinds. There's there's a weekly poker game that I do with friends. I've got these different groups where we hang out either every other week or once a month, or because that's what I used to do when I wasn't working, would be when I wasn't doing an acting job, teaching or doing civic stuff for APAC, because there's some parts of the year there's a lot of work to do for that. Then I would be hanging out with friends, playing music, listening to music, cooking. What else? I'm really lucky where I live. I'm near 3 different parks. And I love to go for long walks and be out in nature. Yeah. But yeah, what do I do? What do I do in the off time? Yeah. I would say those are the main things. And the truth is, I love watching TV and movies. Like when I was little, that was one of my favorite things to do. It's how I fell in love with it. I saw Star Wars, the original, episode 4 original, and I was just like, it's like, I want to do that. I want to be there. That's me. I want to be Princess Leia. And that was it.
Wow.
That was, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and
Thank you for having me.
Sharing your story. I also I need to let the viewers know, subscribe to this channel, give us a like, keep the lights on. No, it doesn't really keep the lights on. We don't make any money here. We're just having fun. But subscribe, give it a like. You'll get notifications of upcoming live streams, including the other show that I do, which is the Arkin Brothers Talk About Movies, where my brothers and I pick a different movie every week, and we talk about it on Wednesday nights at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. This week, we are going to be talking about the movie, the 1982 satire Wrong is Right. And strangely enough, we picked it last week. It stars Sean Connery, who very sadly passed away a couple of days ago. We did not know that when we picked the movie. We didn't know that he was going to pass away in a couple of days. But also, interestingly enough, let's hope that art imitates life, because in this movie, there is an African-American female vice president of the United States. So fingers crossed, everybody.
Yes.
And it's a very funny movie. So join us for that Wednesday at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, and it gives you 3 days to watch the movie, or 2 days to watch the movie.
Because you've already voted, right? So many of you have already voted. You've done early voting. You're going to bring in your absentee ballot, drop it off, and go right back and watch the movie. And you need
something to do tomorrow until 8 o'clock, rather than just sit there and chew your nails.
Yes.
I'm just going to take a fistful of Ambien tonight, so that I don't wake up until there are results.
Until Thursday. until. Oh my God.
Going out of my tiny little mind. Out of what's left of my mind.
I'll suggest to you and to others, some friends of mine very generously set up a Zoom at their house, and they're like, listen, the Zoom will be on. If you need to drop by to just scream or cry or kvetch or whatever it is, just and so that's a coping mechanism if people are looking for.
And I'll go on my long walk tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for coming on, and
thank you so much for having me.
And this has just been really great.
It has been so great to talk to you, Matthew. And I look forward to seeing your movie night discussion.
All right. Good night.
Good night, Matthew.
Wrong. That was the wrong end credits. This is the right end credits here.